If you're planning a move to the Atlanta area in 2025, you're probably asking yourself questions like, how far ahead should I plan? Should I rent or buy it first? And what is the real estate market going to be like? I know this because these are the most common questions that I get from clients we help relocate here from out of state. So today we're going to go through these most commonly asked questions, and I'm going to give you a framework for how to think and plan for your big move to the Atlanta area in 2025. So jumping right in, how far ahead do you need to plan? This is going to depend on three things: finances, pickiness, and familiarity. For finances, this is going to depend on how complicated your situation is. Do you already have a job lined up in the Atlanta area? To get approved for a home loan, you're typically going to need an offer letter from the company that you're going to work for that states the salary you're going to make. Do you have a home to sell in your current market before you can buy? If so, you're going to need to simultaneously work through the selling and buying process in another state. So this is another big moving piece you're going to have to consider and coordinate with two different realtors on. And are you coming here from a country outside of the US? Well, we're going to need to know, do you have a social security number in the US? Have you paid taxes here yet? If the answer to that is no, you may be in a really difficult position to purchase something right away. You may have to rent it first. So the more moving pieces that you have unanswered related to your finances, the sooner you're going to want to reach out. This is usually the first thing that we tackle in this whole process because financial related issues take the longest to resolve. Now, if you're already in the States, you don't have a house to sell, you've already got a job lined up, then you're really just going to need to make sure you connect with a lender 4 to 5 months before you want to be where you're going. But if you have any of the complications I just mentioned, it should be closer to 6 months ahead of time. Next is familiarity. Have you been to Atlanta? Did you grow up here? Have you spent a significant amount of time here? Generally, the more familiar you are with the Atlanta area, the less time this whole process needs to take. If you've never been here before and work is moving you here and you don't know what you're getting into, you're going to want to plan ahead because there's going to be a process of discovering which neighborhoods are going to work best for you and your family. It's going to involve at least one, probably 2 trips into the Atlanta area to drive around and spend time in different neighborhoods and look at a few homes. So if you are completely unfamiliar with the Atlanta area, you're going to want to plan ahead of time, closer to at least 6 months ahead of time, to give yourself the time to accumulate the knowledge and understanding of what each neighborhood is going to provide for you and where you should be focused on. Now, if you grew up here and you're moving back, or if you have family here that you visit a few times a year, you're generally familiar with the metro Atlanta area, then you probably don't need quite as much time. You may still want to do one discovery trip into town to make sure you're up to date with all the changes that have gone on in the Atlanta area. But the more familiar you are with these areas you're potentially buying or renting in, generally the less overall time this process needs to take. And third is pickiness, okay? And this has to do with, you've got a budget and you have certain requirements. How many options are you seeing in Zillow or the MLS search that look like they'll work for you and your family? If you are not seeing a lot of options, either because you're picky or just because there's not a lot of supply in the market right now, you're going to want to look much further ahead of time and be ready to pounce on an option that looks great. However, if you are more flexible for whatever reason, be it your budget or just needing less space or just being less picky in general, and you're seeing a lot of options that look like they could really work for what's most important to you, then this process does not need to take that long. Let's just do a sidebar here real quick, okay? In terms of the timeline, it's typically 30 days to close. So if you back that out from the day that you want to be here, 30 days to when you want to have something under contract from that time. And then prior to then, the home search process does not need to take longer than 1 to 2 months, assuming we have all our ducks in a row with all the things I'm going to mention today. So really, the home search process itself is 1 to 2 months at the most, maybe even less, but it's all these other things that are involved in coming here from another state that are going to encourage you to either take longer to plan or you may not need all of that time. But very practically speaking, we only have to back things out 30 days from close to when we want to have a contract, and then 1 to 2 months previous to be out looking at homes, doing tours, and submitting offers. Everything prior to that is going to be preparation depending on your circumstance. So in terms of how far ahead of those 3 months you should plan, it's going to come down to how familiar you are with the Atlanta area, how picky you are with the home that could fit for all your needs in your budget in the neighborhoods that could work, and your financial situation. How complicated is that? Do you have a home to sell? Are you getting a new job? Are you coming from another country? The more complicated those issues are, the more time that you're going to need. But if you happen to have a very simple situation, you could plan as little as 4 months ahead of time and still make it work. Should you rent or buy first? This is a very common question that we get, and I don't think there's a right or wrong decision here. I have helped people who have never stepped foot in Georgia purchase a home in the Atlanta area, and it's worked out fine. We did all the pre-work and due diligence and made sure it was going to check their boxes, and those families ended up extremely happy. I've also had people come here and rent for a year and then help them buy, and that's worked out fine as well. Or even helping some people rent here and they decide it's not for them and they go to somewhere else, or they get a different job. So there's no right or wrong scenario here, but what I will tell you is that the more familiar you are with the Atlanta area, the more I would feel comfortable encouraging you to buy. If you've never stepped foot in Georgia, if you have no idea what you're getting into, if you're a little nervous because it's an extremely different market, right? If you're coming from the Pacific Northwest to the Southeast, that's a big lifestyle change. It's a big everything change. I would probably be inclined to direct you a little bit more toward renting, especially if you're nervous, you don't know if it's really going to work out for you long term. Again, if you spent time here, you vacationed here, or you have family that you visit, you know that you like Atlanta, you like what it has to offer, the major pros and cons, then I would say I'm a little bit more comfortable with you just diving in and buying. The pros and cons are obvious: not having to move twice, owning something, not having to pay a landlord, earning appreciation earlier. But there's benefits of renting as well, right? Renting allows you flexibility. If you don't like the little neighborhood that you're in, you can move out when your lease is up. If you hate the Atlanta area and Georgia, you can move out when your lease is up, right? So the flexibility is a big piece, and renting is just cheaper, right? You don't have to put down a big down payment. You don't have to pay closing costs. So renting is more affordable. So I would just sit and think about, how comfortable and familiar you are with Atlanta, and if it's going to work for you and your family, and what your financial situation is. And I would say if you don't really need to depend on that major flexibility and lower cost, I would probably encourage you to buy. But if you're unfamiliar, you want some flexibility, then I would definitely steer you towards renting. All right, question number 3, what is the market like, right? The market has gone crazy the last few years. There were bidding wars, and now you're seeing homes sit on the market for a long time. So what's the market in Atlanta going to be like? Are you going to be in a bidding war? Are you going to be getting the best deal ever? Well, it is legitimately a very strange market. When the interest rates were extremely low, it was incredibly competitive. Low interest rates mean the prices shoots up. So although you had better buying power, your prices were going through the roof, and you had people doing crazy things like waiving inspections and waiving appraisal clauses. It was a real bloodbath. Well, now, interest rates have gone up and the market slowed down a little bit. But here's the thing, there's still a lot of demand. There is a lot of pent up demand in the market to buy homes in the metro Atlanta area because so many people are moving here. However, it's being held at bay because interest rates are still kind of high to where sellers don't want to let go of those rates, and we don't have a ton of supply here, right? So there's not a lot of great options at your disposal. So I think the easiest way to think about it is when you have just a killer home in a great area that's in great shape, that's, very popular and everyone wants, those homes are often getting multiple offers and going above asking price, especially if they're in a good public school district. Now, if you have one of these homes and maybe more of an up-and-coming area that is not as established, or you have a lot of homes now that are being listed according to prices that were normal a few years ago, and these sellers are just not up to speed with what the market is at, then those homes are sitting on the market longer, they're having price reductions, and there are opportunities for buyers to get concessions and price reductions. So it really, at this point, is going to depend on the product, so to speak, the home, the location, the quality of the public schools in that area, and how it's priced, right? If you price something competitively, it's likely to have a lot of interest in multiple bidders. If you overprice something, which we're seeing a lot of in today's market, it's going to sit and have some price reductions, and then there's going to be concessions when there's offers on those homes. The other big question I get about this is, spring, summer market versus winter, fall market. Is it worth it to wait to one of those to get a better deal? The answer is no. You do have different types of markets. The spring summer market, you're going to have the most amount of sellers, the most amount of inventory to choose from. You're also going to have the most amount of competition, the most amount of buyers active in the marketplace. In the winter time, you're going to have less options, you're going to have less competition. So in that sense, it does even out a little bit, but at the end of the day, always prioritize your life situation. Whatever timing is going on with work or family or any kind of practical real life situation, plan around that and buy when you're ready, okay? Buy as early as possible when you're ready. I can't think of any reason to sit on the sidelines as a perfectly viable home that you can afford passes you by because you think you're gonna get a better deal 6 months from now. I promise you that won't happen. Interest rates are going to continue to come down, which is great, but guess what? Interest rates come down, prices go up, competition goes up. So don't worry about the spring summer market versus the fall winter market. Prioritize your life situation and be ready to pull the trigger at all times. The other part of this is know your budget sweet spot. You have a max budget, but if you're going to be looking at homes in popular areas like East Cobb or Decatur, you're not going to want to look at the very top of your budget for that new listing that's just come on the market. You're going to want to look maybe $50,000 below the top of your budget to give you runway to offer above asking if needed. Now, if you're looking at a home that's been on the market 25 plus days, then you probably can look at homes that are closer to the max of your budget because you're not going to be going above that. But you don't want to just go off your max budget. Your sweet spot is probably, 40 to 50 grand below your absolute max to give you some leeway to make sure you're not stressed out about the mortgage payment. And if you do getting in a bidding war, you have some ability to go above asking. Now, the next big question is, where should I live, right? And this is the big one, okay? I've helped so many people relocate here from out of state, and really, at the end of the day, I really feel like the value I provide is helping people understand which neighborhood is going to work for them and their family. With the main challenge being, there's lots of areas that could work, right? Unless you have a very unique home that you're looking for or a very unique budget, there are going to be multiple neighborhoods that could work for you and your family, but we cannot search effectively over the entire metro area. So we have to find ways to narrow it down. Now, a lot of times this is easy because if you need to be having good public schools, we've eliminated a lot of areas. If you need an acre of land, but you only have $400,000, we're not going to be looking in Alpharetta, right? So your size needs and your budget that you're working with are going to eliminate a lot of areas. If you have an unlimited budget and you don't really need that much size, it's actually going to be more difficult because you could live anywhere. Another big way to narrow it down is going to be commuting somewhere, okay? It could be commuting to your job. It could be staying a certain distance from your family. It could be being a certain distance from a big amenity like the airport. You want to think about, is there anything that you're going to consistently be driving to? Because traffic in the Atlanta area is so bad, we don't want to put you in a neighborhood that ends up being 44 miles away from the job you commute to 6 days a week, or 55 miles from your close-knit family, or 65 miles from the airport and you're a pilot or a flight attendant, right? So seems obvious, but if there is anything that you are going to be consistently driving to in the Atlanta area, that is going to help narrow it down quite a bit. We're going to want to stay in a certain radius of whatever that thing is. And of course, another big one is just the lifestyle that you're looking for. Are you a city person, right? Obviously, if that's the case, we're going to be looking inside the perimeter where there's a lot going on. You might hate the city and you don't never want to see a person ever in society, right? So maybe we're going to look way out in a rural area where it's much quieter and you can get a larger plot of land and you can have peace and quiet. Or for many people, you may have children and you want to raise them in a suburban atmosphere with high quality public schools in a safe area that's not too far from Atlanta if you may be commuting there. So the lifestyle that you're looking for is a great way to narrow it down. A lot of people want walkability, which can be challenging in the Atlanta area, but we may find a great downtown in a suburb for you to enjoy. A lot of people have hobbies that will put them in certain locations that'll be closer to the things that they can enjoy with those hobbies. So, we want to talk about and think about what kind of lifestyle are you looking for in living in this area and which neighborhoods are going to deliver that type of lifestyle for you. So, where should you live? First off, we need a budget and we need to know what size home you need and we need to know what your must-haves are with the home, because in different areas, you're only going to be able to get so much home at a certain price, right? So the budget and the size is going to eliminate a lot of areas. We need to know if you're going to be commuting anywhere. We need to know if you need quality public schools, and we need to know what kind of lifestyle you're looking for. Again, your main challenge in this whole process is not going to be a lot of the practical stuff that you're, worried or thinking about. The big challenge is going to be there are so many great places that could work for you or you and your family, but we cannot search effectively in a massive metro area. We've got to search 1 to 3 neighborhoods at the most. So we need to find ways to narrow it down. You really want to take time and list out all the things that I just mentioned, and that will help you narrow it down. So there you have it. 4 are the most common questions that I get asked by clients who are relocating here from another state. If you're moving to the Atlanta area in 2025, these are the main things that you want to think about. Of course, there's going to be many other things to consider, but this is the framework for how to think about these questions and how to come up with answers for you and your family. So I really hope that helped create some clarity for you and your plan. Again, you can reach out to me anytime. Call me, text me, email me. You can book a Zoom call using the link in the description below. I love when my viewers become clients, so don't hesitate to reach out today. Until my next video, I'll see you next time.